Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Before we dive into the technicalities, I want to share something personal. I'm deeply, incredibly passionate about this topic. For many, data protection sounds like a dry and administrative burden, but through my work at E&S Solutions and conversations on the No Nonsense Sustainability podcast, specifically with my data protection officer and the legal counsel, I've realized that it's the health and safety of the digital age. If you haven't seen it yet, I recently did a full webinar for IAIA on this, which is available on YouTube, where we really peel back the layers of our professional responsibility. Today isn't just about compliance, it's about the ethical soul of our work. As environmental and social practitioners, we're invited into the most intimate parts of people's lives. We ask about their income, their health, their fears, and over the next 10-15 minutes, this preview will give you an insight as to what the full course is like, where we look at why data protection matters, what are the real world risks we face in the digital first world. That's my hat as an AI developer. And how can you start transforming your practice today? Think about the standard project cycle. We aren't just writing reports, yeah? We're managing this vast ecosystem of sensitive personal identifiers. We have household surveys detailing their economic vulnerability, incomes, formal, informal, livelihoods. We often have access to their medical information, specifically for the vulnerability assessments, right? We have consultation photos that record exactly who is in a room. We have the notes that record what they said, what their opinions are, what their fears and concerns. And most of the times, we even have GPS coordinates that map the exact locations of a family's front door, their garden, the land that they farm. This information, if mishandled, doesn't just leak. It can lead to discrimination, persecution, and even physical harm for the people we serve. We have to find a balance. On one side of the scale is trust, on the other is risk. Proper management, so data minimization, collecting only what you need, and implementation of robust security strengthens the bond between the practitioner and the community. In our full course, we go deep into the consent spectrum, which helps you decide if you need simple informed consent or explicit trauma informed written consent for highly sensitive data. I want to be very clear. Data protection is about people, not paperwork. Let's look at two cases from actual E&S practice. This will sound very familiar to most of you. Case number one is an ESI document that included the consultation photos or a stakeholder engagement plan. You decide. We used to include some photos of the site visit or the consultation. The team blurred the faces, but participants were still identifiable through their distinctive tribal markings, clothing, and the village background. This was not just a privacy slip. It put those community members at risk for participating in sensitive political discussions. Sounds familiar? I thought so. The second example relates to health impact assessment. And in the IIA webinar, we had a health impact assessment expert talking more about additional safeguarding mechanisms specifically for sensitive data that they have to put in place. But very often, even if we're doing a social impact assessment, we have the annex that includes some health data with individual medical conditions. This document, in this hypothetical scenario, went online and it became a permanent digital record that could affect those people's employment and social standing forever. What you need to remember is that you cannot undisclose this data. Even if you remove it from the internet, people have read it, people will remember, and you're putting these vulnerable people in an even more vulnerable position. The shift from the paper to digital has been a revolution, and it also multiplied vulnerabilities. How many of us have seen raw survey photos shared casually in a WhatsApp group or through people's Gmails or other email accounts? How often do you actually ask your sub consultants what kind of equipment they use to do their work? Do you know if they have multi factor authentication when they open their laptop? Do you know if they use a different laptop for personal and business purposes? I don't think so. Are sensitive reports sitting on unsecured cloud drives in most cases. This creates what we call multiple uncontrolled copies that we cannot delete once the project ends because it sits on the individual devices. We often have no idea who has what document, what information, what photo on their personal device. And once the project ends, it just stays there forever. In Module 6 of our full course, we tackle AI and data protection specifically. Many teams are now using AI for various purposes, but in one of the examples, we use the transcription or analysis example. In some cases, the organizations restrict AI use to Copilot, for example, but that does not stop people from experimenting with other free and proprietary AI tools. But using these other tools often means that your community data becomes part of the AI's training set, often without your knowledge. That is a breach of consent. Teach some safer alternatives. Enterprise grade tools with zero retention policies or locally deployed models that ensure that data never leaves the secure server. Let's pause. I want you to recall the most sensitive piece of information you've ever seen in an E&S report. I can think of a few health examples. Now, ask yourself, was it truly necessary to achieve the report's objectives? In my podcast episode with the lawyer, we discussed the lawful basis for processing. Just because data is publicly available does not mean that you have the right to use it without a clear legal reason. Always err on the side of more explicit consent. We also need to implement data minimization. In the full course, we show you how to move from exact numbers like specific income to ranges like income categories when you're disclosing this information, which provides the same analytical value but vastly protects the individual's identity. In this preview, we've covered a fundamental truth that data protection is about building trust and preventing harm. Digital transformation requires updated safeguards. From the moment of collection to the final deletion of the file, which is something we often forget. If this resonated with you, our full course is designed to turn you into the champion of data protection for your organization. We cover global principles like the GDPR and national laws in countries like Kenya and India, where you might work. And we provide a workbook with interactive exercises on resettlement mapping, climate risk, anything that you might encounter during your work. But most importantly, we provide you with some templates, which are ready to use forms like contract clauses for subconsultants and checklists for your next field survey. We have a professional responsibility to protect the people and places at the heart of our assessments. I hope you'll join us in the full course. Download the resources, check out the IAIA recording, and listen to the podcast for more no-nonsense sustainability advice. Thank you for taking this first step towards ethical, responsible information management. Let's build a more trustworthy approach together.